Okay, I am popping in now to share about all of Gemma's second grade curriculum and the stuff that we used for her this year. So I will start with math for her. The only thing that overlapped between Gemma and Max this year was Bible. Everything else they did pretty much separately, and I'm kind of going to change that around next year because obviously when you're homeschooling, you're doing stuff as a family, and I want to do more family-based learning, I guess, is my point. It's less repetitive, or it's less repetitive for me when I can just like do stuff all together and then potentially like break off a more age-appropriate component to it. So looking into some options for that. But all right, so Gemma, math. This was what she did. This is teaching textbooks, and it is a computer-based math program. She did 3. That's where teaching textbooks starts. Even though she was in 2nd grade, this is totally, even though it's 3rd grade, it's totally 2nd grade. Maybe even end of 1st grade stuff. Like it starts very, very basic. There are 118 lessons in it. There are quizzes built into it. There is a workbook that they can handwrite with it, but they enter everything through the computer program. So it starts out and it gives them a little lecture on whatever the topic is that they're learning, and then it gives them practice stuff. Oh, it has every couple lessons there's like speed drill, quiz stuff, and you can just log in as the parent and click through, and you can see all their scores on stuff, see if there's anything they need to go back and review. I love teaching textbooks. One, math is not my thing, so the less involved I can be in math, the better. So as soon as Max is ready, as soon as, his number formation is good and we've kind of established that, like, you've got the hang of this, I will switch him over to this as well. I'm assuming 2nd or 3rd grade is when we'll do that. And then he'll do math 3. So next year, Gemma will move right on to math 4, and we will stick with teaching textbooks as long as we can. It goes up. I mean, there's calculus teaching textbooks, which I never even made it to. You guys, I flunked out of pre-calculus. Did I? Yeah, I flunked out. I withdrew before it got too bad, is what ended up happening in high school, because I always joke, once they introduced the z-axis, I got totally lost in math. So that they've got the little lesson where there's a person explaining it to them, and I'm not the one who's having to decipher anything and explain anything. It's a good setup. Dom could probably help a lot more with math, but he's just not usually home when we do school stuff, and it's like we want our evening time to be family time, so I don't want to push math onto him. So there you go, teaching textbooks. Big ol' thumbs up from that. Gemma did gobs and gobs of stuff for language arts, which was good and bad. Good in that, like, the girl has language arts down pat. Bad in the fact that, like, some of it was just too busy and repetitive for her. And I'm all for, like, once a kid learns a skill, improves proficiency in it, move on. We do not need to do all this busy work. So, with that said, we use daily grams for grade 3. Again, she's my reader. She taught herself to read. So we moved on through that stuff quicker in regard to, like, okay, now that you can read, let's talk about practicing grammar. Let's make sure that you're writing paragraphs well, all that kind of thing. So I just switched to a page that she had accidentally skipped. There are 180 lessons in this. I think a school format would use this as a open your day with a worksheet. You know why it's blank? It's because that's the teacher one. This is the one that she filled out. Or she didn't skip a page. So what it does is it has, every page looks like this. Capitalization practice, it gives you a sentence that does not have the right stuff capitalized and you rewrite it with the correct stuff. Punctuation, parts of speech, and then a sentence combining. So it says, like, the example is, the girl writes in her notebook, period. The girl writes her assignments. They're supposed to combine that into one sentence. So she wrote, the girl writes her assignments in her notebook. She did not need 180 lessons of this. it's good practice. I'm sure it helped her just get really fluid with stuff. So I recommend it. I recommend it in regards to grammar. But I should have stopped and said, you don't need to keep going in this because you've proved proficiency. But I didn't, because I'm the kind of homeschool parent who, like, I want to finish the workbooks. Like, I want to be like, we completed this, 100% done. Gemma's also that kind of student. Like, she wants to finish her stuff, but I don't need to be. That's the great thing about homeschooling. So you have the flexibility to say, this individual child has reached this benchmark. We don't have to keep drilling this in because it's completely drilled. We could have stopped this one, but it's done, and I liked it, and I will use that with other kids, is my point. We also used first language lessons for the well-trained mind. Max jumped in on this sometimes. It was definitely more than he needed as a kindergartner, but still very good. I really like this. It's really simple for parents. There are 100 lessons, and it's pretty much introducing parts of speech, and then it has poetry woven into it, and it has some artwork analysis woven into it. And so it's broken down. It literally tells you exactly what to say. Instructor, read this. And then together, read this. Student, and then that's what the student's supposed to reply. And also the big thing about language lessons is it teaches them to reply in a complete sentence, which is just a good life skill. Like, so if I said, who owned the hen? In regard to, this is from, there's a little story about the hen and the golden eggs. Who owned the hen? I would ask. And then the student is supposed to reply, the farmer and his wife owned the hen, rather than the farmer. It's a good communication skill thing. And so it takes maybe 5 minutes. So that was a great one. I liked this. There is a 2 that I think we're going to move on to next year, unless I end up going this other route through this other thing where it's going to kind of combine everything all in one. But I actually even looked at this at the homeschool store recently because I was like, I think this is one that we're going to go back and review lots and lots. Maybe I should get it. You're probably saying, well, don't you have the first one? No, I don't, because we borrow it through our parent partnership program. So that goes back to them. Okay. The other thing we did, again, that I really, really liked is this book, Writing with Ease. It's the same, it's not the same author. I almost said it's the same author. It is the same author as Story of the World. So if you like the Story of the World for social studies stuff, this is also by Susan Weisbauer. This is a copywork and dictation setup. So there are 4 days to each week, and there were 36 weeks. So, for example, let me show you one. So for week 17, day 1 is copywork. And so it gives 2 sentences to copy. The parent gets to kind of choose, based on your student's writing level, what sentence to copy. So there's a short sentence and a long sentence. From then day 2 is the narration exercise. So I read that out loud. And it's always a clip from like classic literature. So this is The Reluctant Dragon. The coolest thing about this was and here's the thing, I was a super reader growing up, but not classroom directed reading. I would go to the library and pick out my stuff, and I would read what I liked, and I would get sucked into series, and I would spend all my time reading that. I never had anyone introduce new things to me to be like, oh, you might like this. So I'm running across things that are apparently considered like classic children's literature that I've never read, never heard of, like The Reluctant Dragon. And I'm getting to enjoy them now as an adult. But I'm trying to, I don't want to ever, there's such a balance of like, I want them to read for fun, and I want them to read things that they enjoy because I want them to always be reading and always loving reading. But I do want to assign some reading because sometimes it's kind of in like a gentle way of like giving a recommendation, but in the forced way of giving a recommendation because I'm both your teacher and your mom. So like, you have to read this, and I hope you really like it. I think you'll like it. And if not, persevere through it. Anyways. So it has 4 days of this. Sorry. So day 1 is copy work. Day 2 is narration, which then there's questions that just with the flow of language lessons that the teacher or parent asks a question, they answer in a complete sentence. I am always amazed at both. Max would join us in this probably half the time. How much they remember from these little clips that I was reading. Like, I'm the one reading it and I don't remember. Like, it asks detailed questions. And they'd be like, oh, green scales with a nose the size of a pig, or, you know, weird things that they would latch on to. They'd remember. My kids are good listeners for stuff like this. Not all the time. Day 3, then again, is copy work. And then day 4 is another narration and Q&A thing. So that's every week. So we would do it 4 days. Sometimes we'd squish it into 2 and we'd do copy work and narration on the same day, and then we would just do this 2 days. But we, like I said, we discovered not a lot. We knew a lot of them. Here, I'll give you an example of a couple of what they were. So, Little House in the Big Woods, obviously we know and love that. Adventures of Pinocchio. You know, we know Pinocchio, but we know the Disney version of Pinocchio, not the classic one by Carlo Collodi. So, that was fun reading that. The Frog Prince, Mary Poppins, Peter Rabbit, Caddy Woodlawn, Davy Crockett, The Young Rifleman, The Trumpet of the Swan. The one that I know we discovered from this and really loved, and we went on and we read the whole book, was The Saturdays by Elizabeth Enright. And I had never heard of The Saturdays, and so we read the narration. We were like, this is super cute. We should get this from the library. So we did. The Reluctant Dragon, The Light Princess, A Child's Geography of the World, Tom Sawyer, Velveteen Rabbit, How to Eat Fried Worms, The Happy Hollisters. That's another one that I had never heard of that we then got from the library, and it's more than just the Happy Hollisters. There's a couple in the Happy Hollisters series, and Jemma's read all of them now. All of a Kind Family, which I did read as a child and love, and if you haven't read All of a Kind Family or any of the subsequent ones by Sydney Taylor, do that. Do it. Socks by Beverly Cleary, The Wind in the Willows, Wizard of Oz. So there you go. It walks you through all that kind of stuff. And there is a level 2 to this as well. So I know we're going to do that next year because we like it purely for finding out about new stuff. Alrighty. That was her. Oh no, that isn't even all her language arts. We also did literature studies, which were she would read a book, and then through our parent partnership program we would get different like packets for vocabulary, reading comprehension, even like word searches and games that coordinated with the book. So she did quite a few of those, and I have not pulled together the list of them yet, but I will include that down below this video in case you're just looking for recommendations. The problem is I'm doing this as a 2nd grade video. She's not reading at 2nd grade level. She's reading at 5th and 6th grade level, probably. And so that's what the books are more. But they're good read aloud ones. Those are really good, like, comprehension-wise. Like, younger kids can totally read and enjoy those ones. Okay. Next up is handwriting. She also does handwriting without tears, just like Max, except for Jemma started cursive this year. So she did cursive handwriting, which is the first book. And I am sorry. So she started all the way at the beginning with handwriting without tears, just like Max, and moved on to cursive. And, like, this girl's cursive is just, like, beautiful. It's just beautiful handwriting, and I love it. I love seeing her cursive handwriting. And so it has practice pages, and then it moves them on to, like, words and sentences. And so then she made it, let's see, about halfway through the second cursive book, which is Cursive Success, which is just additional practice. Because even, like, to this day, like, my cursive is definitely a mix between printing and cursive, which I did tell her. She was like, well, do you really write in printing or in cursive? And I told her, I was like, well, mine's kind of a mix. I was like, once you establish proficiency in printing and cursive, then you kind of get to create your own font. And then you can write like that if you want to. So she's excited about doing that. I did tell her that she could stop and we'll just pick up and finish this next year to kind of reestablish her cursive skills. So that was her handwriting. For Bible, as I talked about in Max's video. Maybe I should have done these together. I didn't want them to get too long. Let's see. Yeah, this one's already getting long. But we used this book by Sally Michael. It's called God's Names. It's fantastic. I really loved it. There are 26 names of God that we read about. So it would have kind of a little opening story. Oh, this is my favorite. Elroy, the God who sees. This is the cool thing about doing Bible with your kids. You're going to do stuff that's kid level Bible work, and it's going to speak to you in its own way as an adult and a parent. Like, going through this was meaningful. I think it was just as meaningful to me as it was to the kids. It opens with a little story. It ties in how that name is used in the Bible. It has specific scripture listed with all of it, and then it has great like Q&A and a optional activity at the end. We rarely did the activity. We kind of did it. We read it together, usually during lunchtime, and then we would talk about it. And then for Bible, we also memorized a scripture each month together as a family. We would pray together, and we did a couple other Christian-based books that I would get from the library, like the Ology, Ancient Truths Ever New. We read through that, but that was just a library book. It's one that I want to get because it's one that I will do again with the kids when they're older, because I think they'll get other stuff from it, and then again with the little boys. And then right now, we're, just this month, I ordered Indescribable, 100 devotions for kids about God and science, and they're really liking that. And then the Easter baskets, I got them Love Does for kids, and that's a really good one. That's Bob Goff's kid version. And Jemma specifically really likes the Love Does one. So that's what we did for Bible. For science and social studies, we use these little packets that I didn't like at all. We will not be going back and doing them. They were good from the perspective of that they introduced a wide variety of topics. But to me, they felt like busy work. They felt like things that my kids mostly already knew. And I'm not into busy work. And as I've been homeschooling more, so this is I just wrapped up year 3 for me. I'm finding that I would much rather go really deep into a particular topic with them and spend more time on it and learn more like faucets and branches off of something than to do all this like surface shallow stuff. I guess I don't mind as much if my kids go off to college and for some reason like, I'm trying to think of a good example. We never studied insects. I don't know a lot about insects because we spent 2 years learning about the ocean, and I can tell you 100 different facts and gobs of details about the ocean and point you into the right resources. And we went on all these field trips related to the ocean. And because at that point, I feel like they're going to have the research skills and the ability to, if there's something that they don't know about that we missed, because inevitably there's going to be stuff that I miss. I can't teach them everything. I'm still learning some of this stuff. Like, I'm coming across things where I'm like, I never learned that. And I went to both public and private school, and through college I have my master's. Like, there's stuff that I didn't learn. But because I have the learning skills, now I can learn it if I need to. Or I know where to turn to find the answer. So, there's a little homeschool philosophy for you, at least on what I kind of think that we're kind of doing. Bottom line is I'm still learning. Every kid is really different, and every year I'm finding, this worked really well, this didn't work really well. And even, especially with this language lessons I'm writing with these, this was really good, but it might not be the best fit for us for next year. So just because it's good and I might change something, like, it doesn't mean that I won't come back to it later. And you can be incorporating really good things into your homeschool day and then still acknowledge that it's not the right fit or the right season and let it go for that reason. Kind of reminds me of that. Lisa Turkhurst, The Best Yes. And then I think, what's her name? Emily something. She just came out with a book called The Next Right Thing. And I am on hold for that at the library because what you might be doing now might be really good, but it might not be the next right thing. I'm guessing that's what the book's kind of about, and I totally agree with that. And I'm going to wrap it up there. So links are all down below. Comment if you have any questions. That was second grade for Jemma.